It's not
It's
that wide
limited
yet.
time only.
It's limited time only. Which will be for limited time only if I can't get the name right. This is limited time only. I'm your host Spencer, and I'm joined by my co-host
Danny Cathro.
Danny Cathro. What's up?
That's
I
fine.
do remember something now that we've gone live and we get to talk to these wonderful viewers that we'll be having. Is that when you do it on Twitch, there's actually a delay, so they might not have even heard what I just said.
Well, now they have.
Twitch, but they don't. They don't know. They don't know. Well, it's a new episode. It's a new day, and we have missed a week.
Yes.
But we are back, and this week we're going to talk about the combat tricks in Amonkhet and our updated opinions of the set, and we're really excited to do that, and excited to be joined by our live listeners. So, thank you everybody who will be watching today, and let's get right into it, Danny. So, don't forget that this podcast is brought to you by GameGrid. You can check them out at play@gamegrid.com. If you are in Utah Magic, go to GameGrid. It is a great place to play Magic, and we really, really appreciate them and all the support that they give us. So I got off the phone with the owner today, and he's like, dude, Danny still hasn't texted me for the amount I owe for the hotel.
Great.
And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a Danny problem.
It sounds like a Danny problem.
No, I
I have a lot of
got him the information he needed. So if you if you grab a check from him, he will give it to you. But yeah, check him out, GameGrid.com, and we really appreciate him. Play at GameGrid.com. So you can also support the show by becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/ccmtg. It is a great way to support the show. If every listener of this show and our other show just donated $1 or more per month, Michael, Danny, and I could quit our jobs and play Magic full time and do Magic content all the time, and it would be really fun for all of us. So check it out at patreon.com/ccmtg. What's our first segment?
First segment we're going to do is the biggest movers. So in this segment, we talk about which of our opinions have been changing week by week, just because the format's evolving, we're learning, and just which specific cards are going up and going down.
Okay. What are your biggest movers this week?
So for me, my biggest movers up are some of the cards that are their creatures that allow you to slow the game down. So the crab and the beetle are two cards that they're not flashy, but a lot of decks need a crab or two, and a lot of decks need the beetle, and you just need to make sure that you get it. And you can't, it's one of those things that I used to always think like, oh, I'll eventually get a crab, like if I need one, but you often need one and you don't always get them because everyone needs them, or lots of people need them.
That is an interesting move up.
Yeah. I just think that the formats, there are very aggressive decks in the format that you have to be able to combat. And those are like two really, really good tools that you have, but you have to take them higher than I was.
Okay. What are your biggest movers down?
Biggest mover down is some of the slow cards that don't really affect the board or like really slow. Like you can still make them work, but I don't like slam them as much as I used to. So two examples that I had was Sheffet Monitor and Lay Claim. Like I still think those are good cards. But you just have to make sure that your deck isn't too slow. They're like the white and the red aggressive decks are really fast. They're really strong. And you can't just spend 4 mana to ramp most games. That's just it's not okay. And then Lay Claim is just a 7-drop if you're using it for the spell part. I mean, it cycles, but that's also slow. So.
Yeah, so for me, last week my biggest mover up was Cartouche of Ambition, and honestly, the format is kind of ever evolving for me. I think that my biggest mover up this week is probably a card that I already would have drafted pretty highly, which is Trial of Solidarity. But here's the thing: is like I think that card might actually be a bomb.
Yeah, I saw in the Team Draft Super League someone cut that card first pick. And there were like lots of very good cards in the pack. There was like Electrify, Final Reward, and then they cut Trial of Solidarity over taking one of the other cards for their deck. It's like the card's really good.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
yeah.
it's really really impressed me, like in a lot of ways. My biggest mover down is probably Even Initiate. Like, while I think the card is still really good, like I had it as like one of the top blue commons, and I don't think that it's as true as I thought it would be.
It's just slow. It's one of those slow cards that it's fine. You just can't have too much of that in your deck.
Yeah. What do you think about sealed in this format? Like, is there anything that you've really encapsulated as like your go-to strategy in sealed for right now, Danny?
Uh,
Or cards for that, I
want
should say.
Wander in Death is completely insane. Like, so the sealed format is a lot slower than the draft one. Like, you have time. You still
Mhm.
have to do stuff, but certain cards that are especially so, like Unburden, Wander in Death. Um, what are some other ones? Like Random Flyers. It plays out like a very similar, like a typical sealed format. So
Sure.
um, you want to play as much unconditional removal as you can. Like I think black is the color that moves up the most when I'm playing sealed. White is pretty easily the best color in draft, but in
Yeah.
sealed, I really like to play black because I really like my Wandering Deaths, Unburdens, and Final Rewards. Like
I
those seem
weirdly
very.
I weirdly really like blue in this sealed format. Like, I think that the sealed format is much better for that color, and I actually don't mind playing illusionary wrappings in sealed. I think that it's good
It's
enough,
better.
and like I just think that the sealed format is actually pretty good. Like, I've actually just really enjoyed the sealed format overall.
Yeah, you have to be careful. You play against a lot of Archfiends and a lot of Glory Bringers.
Well, yeah,
Like
those
you
rares
just have
are.
to kill them. But
Yeah,
uh,
but man, when you open that Archfiend Drakehaven deck, it's a fun deck to play.
it's yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, it is. I promise. I promise. I've done it. Um. All right. So, let's move on to our next segment. Every week on the show, we like to talk about one of the colors and what we think of that color. And this week we're going to talk about white, and we're specifically talking about it a little bit in draft and a little bit in sealed. So we try and give both views on this podcast, as there's not a lot of sealed content out there. So let's start with draft, and let's talk about the colors that it pairs with. What are the best colors in your opinion to draft with white, Danny?
White red I think is the strongest. I think white. So Gust Walker is I think it's the best white common now. Like it might be the best common in the whole set. Like I think you're right on that card.
Yep, I think so too.
It's so good and it's a pretty aggressive card. Just a 2 mana 3/3 flyer.
You know what's funny is I actually haven't minded it in my non-aggressive decks because like I need 2 drops anyway. So like it's just
No, yeah, that's why. Yeah, it's just great, and it doesn't have one toughness. Like it's doesn't really have any bad aspects to it. Um, but I think white generally plays out pretty aggressive. Um, and so white
yeah,
red is a really good deck. It's like if you get a good white red deck, I think it's the best deck in the format.
probably
Um,
I would say so too. I the other color that I really like pairing white with right now is uh uh like I can be in a world where I don't mind being white green not white green white blue. Like
mhm.
if
Yeah,
if
white
I
blue's
draft
fine.
if I draft the right deck, I'm totally okay with it. I don't really like white green anymore. It was something that I was trying for a little while. I just haven't liked it as much, and I really don't like white black. A lot of people are pretty high on the deck. They think it's really easy to get into the deck, but I just actually think that you're too slow. Your cards don't line up with each other very well. I'm not a fan of it, and also like it's basically impossible to get a zombies deck, which is like people are like, yeah, you play the zombies deck, or they're like, yeah, you play the control deck. I'm like, yeah, both those things are impossible. Like your white removal isn't good at common in that deck, and then I don't know.
Yeah, white black I ran into some non-bows, which was annoying. Like I had a deck where I had Trial of Ambition, or sorry, Trial of what it is? The black trial.
Yeah, I think it's Trial of Ambition.
And then the compulsory rest. I was like, this is stupid. I like I want to play my compulsory rest, but if I do, then I'm going to be turning off my Trial of Ambition at some point down the line. And so some of the cards line up a little weird in that color combination. If you get a zombie theme, then sure.
Yeah.
I think
So
that's hard, but
people around here know me as like the guy that wants to play green in everything, green, 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 green. And
uh,
my friends who are close to me know that's not true. I actually want to play
red.
specifically blue and red.
Definitely
Well,
red.
well,
In
in draft,
it
in
seems.
draft
Yeah.
red.
Because blue always looks horrible. You have to like. I feel
But
like you have
blue
to
deck's
be
really fun to play. But what my point is like in this format, I like, and in most formats, I really don't like green white. Like you would think that it would line up really well, right? Like you get some Bitterblade warriors and some cartouches of strength and some
Mhm.
crocodiles and like you get some sweet white cards that are and it doesn't work the way you want it
It's
to.
fine. It's like the bread and butter deck of the four. Like the uncommon is like a fine card, but it doesn't even do that much. You untap, you exert it to untap all of your exert creatures. So like doesn't
Yeah,
even
it's just
untap.
like a 4
I
4
don't
4
know.
4 that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's fine. But yeah, white green definitely doesn't have the upside that some of the other colors do. It's like the exert deck, right? That's the concept, and you're supposed
Yeah.
to
And it's
kind of get paid off by having
it's
sparring mummy, but
it's
that card's bad. I don't know.
yeah, so that
It's
was going
weird.
to be one of my biggest movers down, but I didn't get the chance. I kind of wanted to save it because I
Hmm.
can't. I don't know how many biggest movers down I'll get throughout the format. But like
Uh-huh.
Sparring Mummy, in some of my decks has been like one of the best cards in my deck, and in other of my decks it's been like terrible. And like
Yeah.
specifically in green white, why would I want Sparring Mummy? I have green 4 drops.
Mhm. The green 4 drops kind of underperform though. There's like Quarry Hauler, which that card's fine.
That card's really good. That card's been
Yeah,
overperforming for me.
yeah, it overperformed for sure. It's a good card. But what other green 4 drops? Oh, you have Giant Spider. That's what kind of ruins the green 4 drop slot. So you don't
Well,
actually
that
get to
card's
do
not.
the
That
Naga
card's
Vitalist. Well, the idea is like one of the main things that green does in a lot of formats is you play your 2 mana Dark and then you play your 4 drop and then you get like way ahead and can kind of curve out
But I
and beat
do that,
down.
right? I play Naga Vitalist, right?
Mm.
And then I tap it, cast the Crocodile, put the counter on my Naga Vitalist.
Yeah, that's the dream. But you have to go to the uncommon slot to kind of get that curve of like
Oh,
really
sure.
overpowered 4 drop.
Right,
Or
but I mean,
like,
but like Quarry Hauler is a fine thing to be ramping into, and you
it's
get
fine.
Colossopede the turn after that.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, just the green
But
giant spider,
but
I
but
think,
the
kind
the
of
point I'm
curve.
trying to make here is just that like I don't think that there's as many payoffs as I would want in green white specifically.
Yeah. There's like no, like, you're the exert deck, but it doesn't really come together. Like, I guess if you get trial solidarity, that's a thing. But
So what are the notable commons for you in white? Like what are the things we already talked about Gustwalker, but is there anything else you're like, man, I really want one of these?
so Fanbear is pretty good. It's like, it's overperformed for sure. The 2 mana to tap, there's not a lot of competition on your mana. Most of the decks are pretty low curve with a few big things, but you have more mana to spare than normal. Um, and so Fanbear has been great.
Yeah. So
What are
my
some
top
of the
commons during the set review last time were number
Mhm.
1 Gustwalker, number 2 Fanbearer, and number 3 Compulsory Rest.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if those stay.
Mhm.
I don't know what I would pick over Compulsory Rest at common and white though, other than those 2 cards.
I think I would take. I still like Compulsory Rest. I like that. I'm a sucker for that kind of card.
Sure.
So I would go Gas Walker and
I
then
really I
Compulsory
really
Rest.
like Crop Spearmaster though. Like that card's moved up a lot for me too. That
Mhm.
card is really good.
4/1 for strike.
Yeah. What are the notable
Sometimes.
uncommons for you? Like when you are looking at the set, like is Oketra's Attendant good enough for you?
Let me see. Which
That's the
one?
cycling for 2, Embalm for 5, 5
Oh,
mana.
yeah, that card's great. It's good. So they all like all those types. That's kind of like one of the like slow uncommons that I was talking about. So they come with a caveat of they're very good, but you have to make sure your deck can
Play them.
function. Yeah, it can play them. Like you can't have a deck filled with 2 mana and 3 mana cyclers and then catcher's attendant and like just kind of plan on valuing people out. Like that's not gonna work. You're gonna have to play a 2 drop, play a 3 drop, and then eventually your catcher's attendant is going to be like this really good 2-for-1 that you'll have.
Yeah. So for me, Trial of Solidarity, we already talked about a little bit, is one of the key uncommons in this color combination. I you you could convince me that there are packs or situations where you would take that over Cast Out. Actually, you could easily convince me that there's situations where you would take that over Cast Out.
Yeah, that card's really, really good. Cast Out's also obviously insane, but Trial of Solidarity is like it's so strong. And if you have Oketra's Monument, there's so many cards that synergize really well with the Vigilance
Yeah,
and
and
the
honestly,
Search.
like, I think that there are decks that honestly like that you get in this format where they just are like, yeah, I just don't want this cast out in my deck. I would rather just like put another cartouche of Solidarity in this deck, and
Yeah,
that's just weird.
I think every deck will play Cast Out. Like you're not gonna cut a
But
Cast Out
if you
from your
had
deck.
to pick between Solidarity
The
and
Trial, yeah,
the
yeah,
Trial and it, like there are
yeah,
going to be so many decks where you're like, yeah, this isn't close.
yeah. You'll slam the Trial. Tons of decks you would just
So
slam the Trial.
I think those are my top three uncommons in this set. For white, are there anything standing out for you right now?
No, I mean the Vizier of Remedies is nice against green black. There's like times where it comes up that it's good, but it's just kind of a 2-drop.
Sure.
The True Heart Duelist, that card is actually great.
That card's very good.
Especially if you're gonna have like a slower white deck,
I
that
find
card's
that card
really good.
going further through the packs than I would expect it to go.
Yeah,
Probably
yeah.
just because its replacement value is like so low, right? Like you just can play another 2-drop.
Mhm.
But that's something that I've noticed. What do you where do you think the color stands today? You kind of said at the beginning, but you think this is the best color right now?
Yeah, it's just so deep. Like it has lots of playables, and there's a lot of unplayable cards in the set. And so having lots of playables is a really big boon to the color. You can pair it with anything because you'll have lots of cards to play.
Sure.
Like if you scroll through the commons, like I would be willing to play almost all of the commons, or I have played all of the commons at certain
Sure.
points, which just isn't true with almost all of the other colors, or I
Yeah.
think all of them.
Yeah, I think that white at common is very powerful. I don't personally like Oketra's Monument. I'm surprised that you're a fan. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think
So I wasn't a big fan, and then I've just seen it do a lot of work. Like its main mode is just I can kill you with this threat, and then my Catcher's Monument will chump you whatever threat you have. So that
mhm.
come like I also on coverage I saw it doing like it looked really really good in racing
Okay.
situations.
I think that it is so there were moments where I thought that like Ronus's Monument was really good, and I do think that Oketra's Monument has been better than that
Mhm.
um so far for me. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
those are the
I
two good ones,
Yeah,
not
and
close.
they're still I'm still not sure how I feel about them. Well, let's move on past to our next segment, which is our training rounds every week on the show. We want to talk about something that's going to try and make you get better at Magic the Gathering or life in general. So we like to do this segment every single set, and that's talking about the combat tricks. So that being said, what role do you think combat tricks play in this format, Danny Cathro?
So my rule of thumb with combat tricks is you want to get a mana advantage. So you want to trade up. So for example, shed weakness. I want to use my shed weakness to kill a 3-drop or
Sure.
blink a 3-mana removal spell or something like that. So that's when combat tricks are really powerful, and because in general they're situational. They're bad in multiples. You have to wait until the opportunity arises to play them, and so it'll sometimes they'll eat away at your mana. Like you'll instead of playing your 4-drop, you'll play your 3-drop and hold up shed weakness, and then your opponent won't attack into you, and then you have to do the same thing next turn and play off curve. Um, and so as like to avoid that problem as much as possible, I lean heavily towards cheaper combat tricks. So like for example, Spidery Grasp in the set, I've played it once, and like I've had people play it against me, but if they have 3 mana up, I won't attack, or like if I can play around it, I just will, because like 3 mana is a lot to dedicate to a combat trick. But
Sure. So people keep telling me how great combat tricks are in this set, and I'm like, I mean, I'll play a Mighty Leap, right? And I'll
mhm,
play a Resolve, and I'll
yeah,
play a Shed Weakness, and I'll play a Brute Strength, right? But
yeah,
like, I'm also the kind of guy that would always play all of those cards.
Uh-huh.
So like when people are like, "Oh yeah, combat tricks are great in this format," I'm like, are
So
they better than normal? Because like for me, these are cards that like when you draft as aggressive decks as much as I do, these are just cards you typically play. Like
yeah.
they just go in your decks. And honestly, I like what you said about Spready Grasp. Um I think that card people think is better than it is. Like it's just cost one too many mana.
Mm-hmm.
Um there are times where it's really good, but this isn't the format for it. I will say that if I'm going to pay 3 mana for something like that, I really want it to be a synchronized strike.
Oh yeah, Synchronized Strike is actually great. But Synchronized Strike has the possibility of being a 2-for-1 or a more like
And
it's
it's an uncommon versus a common.
yep.
But like when I look at things in this set, like so there are a few that have been pretty good, right? Like so Unnatural Stamina has been an overperformer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but honestly, I have been underwhelmed by some of the combat tricks in this set compared to where how good I thought they could be. Like Shed Weakness, for example, has, in my opinion, underperformed.
It
Like
has. Yeah.
like when I get pay 1 mana to give a guy +2/+2 in the past, like those are usually blowouts. It's like
Mm-hmm.
usually like, oh well, I this is huge. I don't know how I can win anymore. Is usually how my opponents feel, and I just haven't had as many of those feelings with Shed Weakness in this format. Um, what are your thoughts?
So I think I think what you're saying about how you're just used to playing more combat tricks than other people are is correct, because I think people are having to pick up the aggressive decks and play them pretty often because they're strong in the format. And so you when you're playing aggressive decks, the combat tricks that you just said that you've liked are the ones that push damage well. And so people like you can get lethal with brute strength. You can get lethal with mighty leap. And so having that as another like like you can top deck mighty leap and be like, "Yes, I win." Or top deck brute strength, "Yes, I win." Whereas with shed weakness, that doesn't actually happen. You top deck shed weakness and it's like, "Oh, I can trade my shed weakness for their guy, but then they'll play another guy." And
Sure.
so the combat tricks that actually can push damage to the face have performed a lot better for me also because the my opponent being at a low life total and me wanting the last 3 to 4 points of damage has come up a lot, and
Sure.
those are the ones that get the damage in more often. So
Yeah, I think that combat tricks in this format are good, but I think that like they're a little bit overrated compared to like where they should be.
mhm. Another one that has underperformed. So I thought it was great initially, and I had it be really good a couple times, but then it just kind of was bad. Was Jeru's Resolve? Yeah, that's the one that you're talking about,
Uh-huh.
right? Like it's fine, but I think the problem is where it's a combat trick that doesn't actually push damage ever, and so I think those are the combat tricks that have really been doing better. Even though that one has cycling and it looked like it would be so good because it's like, oh, I can use this combat trick, but if not, I'll just cycle it away. But it just
I,
doesn't.
I haven't minded that one as much. I think that in a lot of my decks I play like a lot of exert creatures, so just being able to
Mhm.
untap them
That's
by
true.
itself has been pretty okay. Especially when I like get an untap, block, and then attack back. When like exert again, it's like, oh man, like
Yeah.
that was a huge blowout, and that's happened a few times.
Hmm. Yeah, I could definitely see that coming up. I like just I've had multiple decks where I've played brute strength and fling together. I mean, fling isn't really it's not a combat trick, but it kind of goes in that vein of situational cards that aren't that great unless the right like the right occasion
Sure.
arises. Um, and I've had like some you can get some pretty aggressive, crazy draws with like brute strength, hit you for 5, fling, hit you for 5 more, and then kill people out of nowhere.
So let's talk about the best tricks we believe in each color. So like I think that it's Mighty Leap in white. What is
Yeah.
your opinion?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's significantly better than the Resolve, I think. It just
What about Inoketra's name?
I know catcher's name. The zombie one.
Well, it gives
Uh,
+1/+1 to everything, or +2/+1 to all your zombies.
uh, the zombie deck, it's better in that. But like we were talking about, the zombie deck, it's actually hard to get it to come through
Sure.
and But so if it's +1/+1, it's not as good. But if it's +2/+1, a lot of times it's better. Like it can be powerful in the right deck, but
Sure,
normally it's not.
sure. And then obviously blue doesn't have like a real combat trick.
Winds of Rebuke is the one that it's actually been better than I thought it would be.
Some people
Like,
told me that they really like Gale Strike, and I'm like, really?
well, I think Gale Strike is like actively decent.
But like people have been like, this card is like a bomb. Like
Oh,
it's
really?
great.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I do like Winds of Rebuke, but I would probably pick a Winds of Rebuke over a Gale Strike.
No, I mean, I'd probably take Gale Strike over it. I mean, getting your card back is the real thing. Because, like, Winds of Rebuke, you are down a card, which you're okay
You're
with
okay
that
with in a lot of the
because,
situations, though.
yeah, you're okay with it
I
because
don't know.
you're playing Enigma
I'm probably just
traits.
wrong. Like now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like I'm wrong, but I don't know. Like, obviously they're like it's the color that doesn't really get uh a lot of combat tricks because it
Yeah,
doesn't want to be in
exactly.
combat as much.
Yeah.
But just it's supernatural stamina for black, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah. What's the other black combat tricks?
well, there's the other one that's black, and then it has a green side to it that gives it
Oh, that's
1+0 and
true.
indestructible. But I
Yeah,
actually don't like that as much as the 1 mana of super natural stamina, and because I get to be mono black with it.
yeah. I mean, yes, the supernatural stamina is better than the front half of Destined. Splendid Agony plays like a combat trick a lot, actually, but that's different.
Yeah, that card's actually bad though.
I think it's good.
You think so? What do you like about
Yeah.
it?
I like it when it's a combat trick that also leaves some kind of residual effect on the board. That's a powerful thing to do. But
Okay. What about red? What do you think is the best combat trick in red?
I think Brute Strength is really good.
Yeah,
I think that's the best.
I think it's pretty good too. I would argue, and I could be wrong here, that that Pursue Glory is actually a better combat trick in this set than Brute Strength is.
So I don't know. Pursue Glory, I've had a weird time
Yeah,
with
but
it.
sometimes it's the best card in your deck, and sometimes
Yeah.
you don't want it in your deck. But like, here's the thing: is I was pretty hesitant to play my first one. I was like, this card's bad. Like, I'm not playing this. And then like, I sideboarded it in once, and then I was like, oh man, that was great. And then I sideboarded it again, and sideboarded it in again, and then I was like, oh, this has been like good a lot. And then I ended up playing 2, and I was like pretty happy with 2 in a couple of my decks.
That's a lot of Pursue Glory.
It's so many.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, you have to be playing some clunky 1-drops probably, right? Because
Slither Blades.
I don't know. That's a thing, I guess.
6 Slither Blades, Pursue Glory.
Blue is the true aggro deck now. Take that.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I'm obviously being a little bit hyperbole here, but I do.
Yeah. Pursue Glory actually
like Pursue Glory. Would you consider Limits of Solidarity a combat trick?
I mean, it's sorcery, so probably not. But that card's really strong.
Not really.
Yeah, I mean, it's just.
I wondered if people consider active treason effects combat tricks.
Not really.
I would actually. You could convince me to make the argument that Cartouche of Zeal is a combat trick, and if we decide that, then it is the best combat trick in red by a significant margin.
Yeah, actually, Cartouche of Zeal is sweet. That card's good.
So Hammerhand putting the hammer down here, saying that it is the best combat trick in red.
Yeah, combat trick. Limits or Cartouche of Solidarity, Trial of Solidarity is the best white one then.
A Cartouche, you mean?
No, the Trial.
You mean Trial.
I'm just kidding.
Okay. that's fair.
Just an anthem.
I actually do think that like Cartouche acts more of a combat trick than it does anything else, right? Like it removes a creature from
the
combat.
red one. Yeah, the red one does. It does.
Yeah.
It plays again.
So in green, there's quite a few combat tricks, and I think that's actually what is different about this set comparatively. Like I'm just gonna list off the cards that I have seen play as combat tricks. Okay, Synchronized Strike, Stinging Shot, Spidery Grasp, Shed Weakness, Pouncing Cheetah. I've seen basically used as a combat trick, and
Hazel Pollen. You
I
have
haven't
that happen to you?
really seen that one. I've not been Hazel Pollen. I
Oh,
have been
Hapatra's
marked.
mark.
I have been marked, and that was
Uh-huh.
a blowout. And I think those are basically the combat tricks in green.
That's a
Um,
lot. Well, especially it has like 3 like combat tricks at common, right? I think.
right, like between Synchronized Spike. That's common, sure. Yeah, like
Yeah,
between
there's a
Shed Weakness,
lot though.
Spidery Grasp, and
You also have
um,
like Stinging Shot, which is
that
I
card is
guess that's
seeing main deck play. It's very interesting.
well, it's just good. That card's good. There's lots
You
of
think
cards.
so?
Yeah.
I haven't been playing it. People have been telling me that it should be in my main deck. I haven't been trying it. Give me the argument. Why should I be playing
So
this trick in my main deck?
if it hits a creature, you feel like you got away with something. You just like played a 1 mana Doomblade in green for like the types of creatures that green struggles with. So
Sure.
that's the main thing. The main pull is that I'll like build my green deck, and I have a giant spider, and I'm like, I don't really want to play this giant spider. I'm more like a beatdown deck, but I am weak to flyers if I don't
Sure.
have a like successful beatdown draw. And so instead of playing a giant spider, I'll just play a stinging shot that I can cycle away if I don't need it, but then it doesn't like take up my like creature. I don't know. It like I don't want to play giant spider, but I need something to deal with a flyer if I play against one, and so I play a stinging shot instead.
Okay.
I don't know if
Okay.
that's correct, but I've cycled it away a lot, and sometimes they'll play like a bone picker for 4 mana, and you're like, oh, this is nice. But,
Just lightning bolt
yeah.
that.
Or
Lightning
even
bolt that.
like you'll play against blue red spells, and you just give their Enigma Drake -3/-3, and it's like, oh, that's pretty good. I just take way less damage from this 3 mana flyer. So.
Sure. Okay. Okay. I can buy it. I can dig it. I can dig it. Well, let's talk then about like what decks want these combat tricks. So the green ones.
The
It's
green ones you don't actually like. You want Synchronized Strike.
in all of your decks, and honestly,
Uh-huh.
like the black green deck will play specifically Shed Weakness,
Yeah, you'll play Shadow Weakness.
and the green red will probably play. Let's be honest, green red will play Shed Weakness. It'll play Synchronized
Mm-hmm.
Strike. It will. That's probably it between the green ones.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as far as what red decks will play, like it's combat tricks, right? But Cartouche of Zeal and Brute Strength and Pursue Glory all go in the most aggressive decks.
Yeah, I'm going through the colors, and I'm just thinking like in every color you would just rather have the other colors combat tricks instead of the green ones. So like in red green, you really want brute strength more than you want like shed weakness. In black green, that's the only one where they might actually want shed weakness over it. But I don't know. It's interesting. Like blue green, you don't really want to have any combat tricks, and then in
Mm-hmm.
white green, you really just want mighty leap more than the other ones. So it puts the green combat tricks in a weird spot, just because there's not
Yeah.
really a home for them.
What do you think about black? Like, what decks want supernatural stamina?
I've actually had a lot of success with like it's kind of cards. So if I have a lot of Doom Dissenters, a lot of like Wasteland Score, I don't know, just certain cards are good with it. Soul Stinger is really good with it. Gravedigger, I did that one time. Ugh,
That
that
seems
felt
good.
unfair. That
Yeah,
felt really, really good.
I also have done some Soul Stinger interactions with it, and it's felt really powerful.
Oh yeah, with Soul Stinger, it's dumb. Yeah, the Gravedigger one was just so great though. You're just like, ooh, trade with your Corey Holler, I think it was. Get back this other
Man,
card.
I mean, if there's a man that likes to dirtle with his
Oh yeah.
combat tricks,
You just gotta use all of the pieces, Spencer. Put them together
use
just
the whole
perfectly.
buffalo. Use the
Yeah,
whole buffalo.
use the whole buffalo. That's how you gotta do it.
Honestly, I have not drafted a white deck yet that wouldn't want Mighty Leap, which is interesting.
Yeah, Mighty
Like,
Leap's just good. It's good.
this might be the best Mighty Leap's ever been, actually.
I think so. There's certain flyers that are really annoying, and white doesn't have big flyers, right? It has the uncommon, but it doesn't like its 4-drop flyer is a 2/2.
Sure.
And so that doesn't, and then its 6-drop flyer is a 3/3. So its flyers don't line up very well against like blue flyers, for example,
Sure.
like the Drake that cycles for 2, the Shimmer Scale Drake. So
Sure.
Mighty Leap acts as like a flyer removal spell a lot of times, and then it also acts as like
Yeah.
deal 5 damage to you, which is
So
good too.
there are a few things that like I think you can play around in this format. Spidery Grasp is pretty easy to play around. I
Yeah.
don't think it's reasonable to play around Synchronized Strike very often. Like unless you have to, like unless you know, right? Like
Yeah, they telegraph synchronized strike. I've had opponents like, oh, attack with my hooded brawler and this other exert guy. Exert both. I'm dead on the backswing. Okay, your turn. I'm like, well, I wonder what's gonna happen here. And then I don't know. You kind of have to like maybe
well,
it's a pouncing
right. So
shift.
like those are situations where you can play around them, right? But
In
uh,
general, you're just gonna get
like
the
there's just
synchronized strike is
two
tough. Yeah,
but there are lots of times where you're in a racing situation with an exert deck, right? And they're just like exert both, like, and
yeah,
you're like, they're and like, it's just like,
yeah.
what do you
It's
do?
tough. Yeah, yeah. Synchronized strike is good. That one is especially. It's a good
I
card.
I think that you should never play around the one that removes all the -1/-1 counters.
Shed weakness?
No, not
No.
that one. Not that one. The other one.
Oh, Hapatra's Mark?
Yeah.
No. People don't play that card.
And
And
I think that it's too hard to play around Shed Weakness too.
yeah,
One that I do think that needs to be more thought of because I've blown out so many people with it is Resolve. Like
yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
like
I don't play around that card very often, honestly.
maybe it's wrong. Maybe you're not supposed to. I'm not sure. What do you think?
I think people play it. So the problem with Resolve is probably that white is really, really deep, and normally combat tricks are the last cards that go in your deck. They're like your so in this format, I always play 16 lands, so they're like your 23rd and 24th card, are normally like your combat tricks, right?
Right.
Because you can't play too many, and they're not most of them aren't good. And so you have Mighty Leap in the same color as Resolve,
Sure.
which makes it just so much less likely that you're going to actually play against Resolve.
Sure.
Because if people are white, they're going to try to play Mighty Leaps instead. And then if they couldn't find Mighty Leaps, then they might play a Resolve. But
I've just actively played like I would probably take this is just me and I could have the wrong read on this format. I would take the first Resolve over the second Mighty Leap.
yeah, it depends on your deck. But
And
yeah,
I
like
would probably
diversity is
often
good.
play them just to keep my opponents on their toes. Like I think that diversity in your combat tricks is really important.
No, for sure. The one combat trick that I've had a lot of that's really hard to play around is Brute Strength. That card's like a nightmare to play around but you have to because the red deck relies on it so heavily.
Yeah, there've been times where we've just encouraged people not to play around them to cards like that too. Like when we did the show with the Ride Down, right? Like we're like, yeah, don't play around with Ride Down.
Yeah,
Like if
you
they have the
just
Ride
can't. Yeah,
Down, like that's
whatever.
fine. It's whatever. Like you're never gonna beat the Ride Down by playing around it. So just don't play around it, right? And brute
Yeah,
strength in a lot of times, especially in green red, is almost the same thing, right? Like
yeah.
if they're playing green red, you probably can't afford to play around brute strength.
How
If
many
they're playing
creatures can you really put in front of their scaled behemoth?
like
Like, you're not just gonna jam all of your X1s in front of the scaled behemoth so that you kill it in case they have brute strength.
or their hooded brawler or hooded
Yeah, yeah.
like I'm just
You're just gonna take the 8 trample damage and suck it up, and that's something that happened to you.
yep. Yep. I agree.
You're gonna hope that they think you have shed weakness
But
with
in
your
something
one
like white
force.
red, I might consider brute strength, right? Where their creature doesn't have this large toughness. It's a little bit different there.
Yeah, yeah. Green red, it's brute strength is a beating for sure.
So to wrap this segment up, what do you think your overall opinion of comic tricks in this format is?
I think they're pretty necessary and integral to the format. In a lot of formats, it's not about combat tricks. So we've played a lot of synergy formats where combat tricks are fine, but they're just like not what it's about. That's not what the game's about. But this format is very much played on the battlefield and running creatures into each other, and that means that the combat tricks come out to play a lot more because
Yeah.
if that's what matters is having good battlefield, like developing it and being able to control the like combat, then combat tricks get really good because they're really efficient. You're spending a little bit of mana to deal with larger creatures, and so they have a pretty big impact on the format for sure.
Awesome. Well, let's move on. Let's go to our next segment, which is how would you build it? So everybody on the show, we look at a seal pool near the end of the show and just talk about like what we think the correct build of the seal pool is. The pool is posted every week by Danny on the website on constructivecriticism.com, so you can go there every week to see the seal pool for the next week. And then talk with us. Like post a comment, leave it in the Constructive Criticism Facebook group, which Danny will also be posting it to. So if you're a member of the Constructive Criticism family, you can also leave a comment there with how you would build it and get a discussion going. And then every week on the show, we will talk about it. So Danny, this pool, you immediately know the first color you're playing.
Yeah, so the white in this color, it has your best bomb, which that in sealed, that's a big deal, is which color has the best card. And Angel of Sanctions is pretty easily the best card in our set. It's like one of the top 3 rares. Like it's really powerful.
Yeah.
And so we're definitely gonna play white. Also, white is just super deep, has like 15 to 20 playables. It has 20 cards, and almost all of them are decent. And so
it playables, it probably has what, 19?
Yeah,
I wouldn't play the cat in sealed. So like
yeah, the cat's bad in sealed.
So like
that is Oketra's name is also pretty bad, but the other ones are all reasonable.
Like
so,
but like as far as like cards, I could see myself playing in like cat is the only one in this entire seal pool that I'm like, no, I'm not playing that ever.
And that's the strength of white in this format in general. It's just really good. Like it's deep, lots of good cards. So you're definitely playing white, and then the white cards look pretty aggressive. Like you have 4 white 2-drops, 2 fan bearers, 3 white 3-drops, and then your bomb rare. And so you have a very low white curve, and red pairs really nicely with it. You have 2 more red 2-drops, one of which is the 4/3, which is really, really strong. And then you just have a bunch of red 3-drops. And the deck mostly builds itself if you just build kind of red-white aggro, and it looks great. You do have 2 scaled behemoths that if you want to just kind of play scaled behemoths. I love scaled behemoths. It's so good. You have 2 scaled behemoths. 2 of them.
Oh, 2. Man. You're so greedy.
I would probably play white red begrudgingly, and then maybe I would side it. Ooh, okay. This is what I would do: play white red, beat them down game 1. They bring in all their dune beetles and ancient crabs, and then you bring in the scaled behemoths off the bench and beat them down with your 6/7s. That's what I would do.
Here's the thing: is you
scaled behemoths.
You could convince me to play green if this pool had different green cards. But like, I don't think that 2 cultivators, 2 scaled behemoths, a quarry hauler, a crocodile crossing, and a trial of strength is enough.
We already talked about how deep white was, right? So all you're gonna do is you're just gonna play the 2 scaled behemoths.
My green cards don't line up with my white cards.
Scaled behemoth lines up with everything, Spencer. I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying. It's a scaled behemoth. Name a card that scaled behemoth doesn't combo with. I can't think of one.
I'm just saying that like I would much rather be playing like a Crasher, a Brawler, a Brute Strength, a Minotaur.
The red-white deck is much better, but I could honestly see...
I could see matchups where you do actually sideboard in 2 Cultivators, a Hauler, 2 Behemoths, maybe even the Spring to Mind, the Trial of Strength, and actually, like, your argument to like play Rug actually could also be convincing.
Yeah, because your red cards aren't like insane. They're just curve fillers and very good with the white cards. So I think that is probably the best main deck strategy. But I do think that some
You could.
kind of
I think that you have a
white
different deck that you
good.
could. Well, no, I think that you actually might not even have to play white in the second strategy.
Well, you have an Angel Sanction, so it's just kind of like I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Getting off white is hard for me. But
Sure.
one question I did have about the red white deck is: would you play Sheltered Thickets as tapped mountains that cycle?
I wouldn't.
And how many lands do you play?
I would play 16 lands in this deck.
Okay, so I think I might play the Sheltered Thickets.
And 16 lands or
I would have
17.
to think. Yeah, so 16 lands, 2 Sheltered Thickets.
So here's the thing: is you don't actually have that many cyclers in this deck, and you have 5 drops.
You
So
only have. I only played the 1/5 drop. I cut the Exert red drop.
okay, okay. So for me, like the definite includes for me are Enkron Crasher, uh, Emberhorn Minotaur, Nepcroft Entangler, one Pursue Glory, the Trial of Zeal. Those are all for sure cards in this deck for me.
Uh-huh. Blood Rage Brawler, I think that card's
That
great.
that one is probably also on the auto include. The white auto includes are True Heart Duelist, Taw Crop Elite, Red Crop Spearmaster, one Mighty Leap, the Gust Walker, Double Fanbear, Glory and Knitbound Initiate, both the Cartouche of Solidarities, the Binding Mummy, and the Angel Sanctions. So like the rest of the cards, I would probably sit like that's when you gain your edges, right? Is like looking at your steel pool and be like, all right, I have a ton of playable cards in these 2 colors. What is my best composition and what does my land base look like, right? And one of my problems with playing the red tap lands is that in this deck, I'm actually going to be playing less red lands than I am white lands because of the way that my deck will break down. So I can't really actually afford to ever be cycling my red lands.
I mean, unless you draw, like if you're not playing any double red cards, you can. But I, I don't know. The off color cycle or the half on color cycle lands have been really good to me. Coming in tapped is a cost, but also cycling them away is a huge upside and so many seal games.
Sure, but I don't think this deck is the one that wants to do that.
Yeah, I actually was gonna lean toward not playing them.
Sure.
I think that if you're on a
Are you
plan,
auto including both of the initiates in this deck?
Yeah.
Because if you're auto including both the initiates in this deck too, like you could convince me to play one of those tap lands. It like in a deck with like what is that 5 embalm creatures? So 4 embalm creatures. So like that's enough of an incentive that like maybe I'm going long sometimes.
And then I was kind of surprised that you would say you would auto include both the cartouche of solidarities. I'd play one for sure, but
I have a Trial of Zeal.
Yeah, one.
Yeah, so I'm definitely playing both of those cartouches.
I mean,
so like here's the thing: is I also have a Gust Walker.
The cartouche has been fine, I guess.
Yeah, like I think that in this deck, like putting it on an initiate or a Gust Walker.
Oh, on an unwavering initiate's real good. That's actually great.
Like, or even just putting it on an Emberhorn Minotaur is like there. I just have too many cards in this deck that I want that card on.
No, that makes sense. Minotaur Sure Shot is actually really good. Like First Strike and Fire Breathing is a good combo.
Yep, and also I'm gonna be. I mean I don't know if I'm playing both the Pursuit Glories in this deck, but I could be convinced if I have that many white cartouches that maybe it's correct. I'm not sure.
Probably not.
Yeah, I'm definitely playing one. Definitely playing one.
Yeah, the second one's probably right. It's probably good. You have a lot of 2-drops, so it's probably good.
Well, don't forget that you can share our sponsor. That's it for the How Would You Build It. Don't forget to share our sponsor at playatgamegrid.com. They just are an amazing place to play Magic. Like we really do mean it. We're excited for the future of Game Grid and the things that they're doing to build up right now. So check them out at playatgamegrid.com. You can also support this podcast by going to patreon.com/cdcmtg. Become a patron of the show. Starting at $1 or more per month, anything you see that is really appreciated. And if every listener of the show and constructive criticism donated just $1 per month, it would make the entire difference if we could quit our jobs and do Magic content full time. It'd be really so fun.
Be sweet.
I do want to say that because we're on Twitch, there's also buttons to all of this down below. So if you're watching live on Twitch, if you just scroll down, there are buttons to donate to the stream directly. There's stuff to the Patreon, to the website, to the YouTube channel, to Oasis Games. We'll put something down there for Game Grid 2. And we just really appreciate all of the support that we've been getting. We actually got another sponsorship offer for all of our content that I'm going to have to be looking at. So we just appreciate all the things that the show's been doing to grow, and all of I mean, it's just been surreal the last couple of months, and we really appreciate it. So don't forget that you can find me on Twitter at Spencer13H. You can find me on Facebook at Spencer Stephen Howland, and you can like us on Facebook, just like Limited Time Only. It's a podcast that's about Magic the Gathering. You can like it there, and you can also join the Constructive Criticism Facebook group on the Constructive Criticism family. So, Danny, where can people find you?
Mostly, I'm on Twitter at DJ Cathro. Yeah, that's where I'm most active on social media. But
you can also tag Danny and remind him to post the sealed pool every week in the Constructive Criticism family.
You can do that.
Yeah,
Monday's a rough day, Spencer.
What day?
Monday.
You can do it another day.
Okay. All right. I'll do it on Monday. It's decided.
Monday's so hard, Spencer. I really can't do it on Monday. What day do you want to do it? Monday.
Monday. Yeah, Monday works great. Thanks. Good idea, Spencer. I like that idea. It's wonderful.
So we're also bringing back, because the show runs short so often, we are bringing back hashtag What's the Pick. So hashtag What's the Pick. If you tweet it, we'll read it. Hashtag What's the Pick. Listeners can post their hashtag What's the Pick with photos on Twitter or our Facebook page, or with just a pick. So the rule is you use the hashtag. It has to be in the first 3 picks, and it just needs to be a screenshot where if it is in the first 3 picks, that we can see the cards you picked before that. But any time that you want us to talk about a pick, just tweet it with hashtag what's the pick, and we'll talk about your pick on the show. And yeah, it's really fun. We really are excited for it. So hashtag what's the pick. It's our Twitter outreach program to you. If you tweet it, we'll read it. So thank you everybody for watching and listening. And we are so excited to do this show on a regular basis. And now we have this awesome technical producer that will make sure that we show up to the show.
And posts on Twitter when we're going to be a few minutes late because Spencer's beating people with Marvel.
To be fair,
you won. So that's what counts.
I won.
Winning is what matters.
I was gonna win before the show started, but he left his computer and then came back, and I didn't realize he'd come back, and I misclicked, and I was like, "What is it?" Yeah, that's fine. And I was like, "Ah!"
It worked out great. It was fine.
Yeah, so it's all good.
Cool.
Well, thank you everybody for watching and listening, and we'll see you guys all next week.
See ya.